Another presidential election looming. It's time for another round of articles on the early years of the men and women who covet the White House. Step back, though, and it's not clear how much they really say. Adam has more.
As Jeb Bush started gearing up for a presidential run, this Boston Globe profile made a splash. Reporter Michael Cranish delved into Bush's years at Phillips Andover and found that he was apolitical, possibly a bully, and definitely a pot smoker. That sparked a rebuke from potential Bush rival Rand Paul.
But I think it is hypocritical for very wealthy white people who have all the resources to evade the drug laws.
And it sent the political media into a tizzy.
Well, the first time I really got stoned was in Jeb's room. That's what a friend said.
Well, what we know now is who's going to use sharp elbows in this Republican primary.
That kind of deep dive into a candidate's youth is now standard practice. 3 years ago, the Washington Post described Mitt Romney bullying 2 gay students in high school.
The boy was held down, screaming and crying while Romney bullied him.
And it's not just early misdeeds that attract attention. Last year, Time magazine sized up photos of Hillary Rodham right after she graduated from Wellesley and saw a self-possessed young woman coming fully into her own, which sounds a lot like a lot of other new college grads and raises a question. How much does a candidate's youth really tell us about the adult today?
Had I not quit drinking, I wouldn't be sitting here as a former president.
Sometimes a candidate's past does help explain who they are.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
But other times, it may not tell us much at all.
I find myself getting really irritated with these profiles, these high school hijinks, and the focus on them, like we're supposed. It's like it has some portends, some future way that somebody's going to, hold down the Secretary of State and shave their head if they don't feel like. I mean,
let's all think about John Kerry.
Yeah, really, it's ridiculous.
But did you read the whole Michael Cranish story?
I couldn't.
It was a great read.
Yeah, part of it. I'm very dismissive of things that. I mean, none of us could really pass the test of time, I don't think, if you looked at what you did when you were 14, 15.
Emily.
I couldn't. Or maybe you could.
Oh, well, I couldn't either.
Yeah. I read the whole Cranish piece. I thought it was
He's a great writer. I don't want to bother with it.
There was a shocking revelation in there, and that is Jeb Bush's love for Steppenwolf.
Oh.
I hope he got over that.
He'll never come back from that.
He'll never come back from that. I mean, my feeling is this is really early in the campaign, and this is when you do these pieces.
Oh, no.
And
endlessly.
Especially given the way that we consume media these days, this becomes part of the digital archive.
Right, I'm going to pull up that quote from you in 16 months because 8 more just like that are going to appear. It's not early. They just keep rolling them out and rolling them out.
Well, I mean, I agree that this doesn't tell us anything about what sort of a governor he would make. But
a president.
A president. I thought it was interesting, and I find all of these interesting. I thought that some of the reporting on Scott Walker's time in college was interesting. It's not of great interest. Certainly how they've governed their states says a lot more about what sort of president they would be. But I would defend these pieces, and I don't think anybody's being forced to read them.
I love them.
I read them.
I think they're gossipy. I think they're lots of fun.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Jeb Bush was kind of, this alleged bully, and that he was, that he was kind of not.
He was a bully. Forget the alleged.
All right, he was a bully, and he wasn't paying attention
bully.
at school. Yeah. He was smoking weed. Everybody was misbehaving. George Bush was drinking too much. I mean, I love him because it does show how people that have, it makes you feel better. Say your own child might have made a misstep or two. Not my children, of course, but other people's children may have made a misstep. It doesn't mean their whole life is ruined, and that people that do. I mean, Barack Obama was snorting cocaine.
Rand Paul claiming that he got away with it because he's white and privileged. What?
But
he smoked dope like everybody else.
True, right?
Oh, everybody smoked dope. How is that true? Everybody smoked dope. Everybody got away with it.
90% of them were smoking dope. I love that.
Everybody got away with it.
They were all smoking dope.
Paul's point is that today, if you're a young, youth, if you're a youth of color, say, if you're a young black man and you're caught
today is different.
Smoking, but I think that's
much
the context
different than 40 years ago.
Yes.
I would defend these pieces, and not just disclosure. I work for the Globe.
Yeah.
I think Michael Cranish is a great reporter. I would defend these pieces. I think that
so much of a public figure's public record in office as governor of Florida or governor of Massachusetts or whatever, has been poured over in great detail. Some of these early childhood profiles give you a little bit more information about the early life of someone, and it's not that any of our lives would stand up to that same kind of scrutiny, but when confronted with the with the evidence of what you've done or your youthful misdeeds, do you weasel your way out of it? Do you admit to it? Interestingly, I thought that Jeb Bush gave an interview to Cranish about this and talked about it and, said other people were doing it at the time and so forth. But I think you do get a little bit out of the reaction. The other thing that I think is interesting, coming at this point in the campaign cycle, which is very, very, very early, from the reporter's point of view, it's an opportunity to go into some territory before everybody else is looking into it. If Jeb Bush is the nominee, you'll read 1,000 other profiles like this, but it's an opportunity to get this information out there before the friends and the family are closing ranks around the candidate. And if you don't do it at this point, you may not get the opportunity in the future.
I totally agree with Dante that the way a candidate talks about their past in the present can be hugely telling. And I mean, the way Bill Clinton tried to make us believe that he had spoken, that you could really make a case that gave you some hints about what was coming down the road with Bill Clinton.
And I give Jeb Bush a lot of credit for not saying no. I was listening to Dylan and Hendrix.
I think that there are there are some revelations. Like there was nothing in the Jeb Bush piece. The talk of him bullying a kid. There was one point where he picked up a kid who was a lot smaller than him and held him up until someone behind him came and made him put him down. That, to me, doesn't raise eyebrows. No. I do think that Washington Post piece on Mitt Romney, seeing this young man who turned out to be gay, who had some hair hanging down over one eye and saying to his classmates, he can't go around looking like that. He can't go around doing this. And then holding him down as he sobbed later on.
So they say.
Yeah, so they say. I'm not saying Mitt Romney was not an adult then, but that was a level of detail and a troubling enough anecdote that I think there was a service provided by, airing it out. And Romney's comment on that, it was basically, well, all of us do things.
I'm always skeptical, and I'm skeptical who tells the stories and to what benefit. They're remembering something that happened 56 years ago.
They're misremembering, perhaps.
Exactly. Misremembering.
Over-remembering?
Yeah. Over-remembering.